Sometimes when we watch movies, animated series, or read comics made out of Latin America, we notice that they mean to show some pre-Columbian culture and they represent it with elements taken from another culture, as if being an Inca and being an Olmec were the same, for example. And even quack astrologers use the Aztec sunstone to talk about the Maya calendar. Of course, the Maya and the Aztecs were cultures that flourished in Mexico before the arrival of the Europeans, but to mistake one for the other is like saying that the Spaniards and the Germans are the same because they both live in Europe and like to eat sausages. So what are the differences between the Maya and the Aztecs? First of all, location. Whereas the Maya settled in southeast Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, the so-called Aztec Empire occupied Mexico's central region and Gulf Coast. Sure, there was a region of overlap between them, but when the Aztecs reached their greatest expansion around 1300, the Maya civilization had already gone through their classic period 400 years before. The first Maya cities were founded around 750 BC, at the same time of the foundation of Rome, and the last were abandoned around the year 950 AD, when Europe was at the height of the Middle Ages. The Aztecs, more properly called the Mexica, founded their empire in the 14th century, when the Medici were becoming the most powerful family in Europe, and it lasted until 1521 with the arrival of the conquistadors. The Maya language was related to languages in Central and South America. Among the Maya gods were Chac, the god of rain, and Kukulkan, the feathered serpent. The Mexica descended from tribes in northern Mexico and south of what's now the United States. Upon reaching the Valley of Mexico, they took and adapted various elements from local cultures. Even though the great Maya cities had been abandoned, the people and their culture still remained. The Mexica equivalent of Chac was Tlaloc, and that of Kukulkan, Quetzalcoatl, but they kept their own god of war, Huitzilopochtli, as their paramount deity. Due to their different origins, the language of the Mexica, Nahuatl, and the Maya language are as structurally different as Spanish and German. The Mexica settled in Lake Texcoco on a site that became the powerful city of Tenochtitlán by the year 1325. From here, the Hueytlatuani levied on conquered peoples tributes of skins, produce, handcrafts, and young men for human sacrifices. Oh, taxes were so much worse back then. The Maya never had a consolidated empire, but a series of city-states governed by priests, among which there was both trade and constant warfare. Maya culture was very advanced. They were the American indigenous people with the most sophisticated writing system, which used both ideograms, symbols that represent ideas, and phonograms, symbols that represent syllables. They also understood the concept of number 0, which allowed them to make very complex calculations and predict the movement of the stars. They built higher pyramids than the Aztecs, or domes and arches, which the Mexica didn't have, in addition to making ample interior spaces. The Mexica, in turn, developed important agricultural techniques like chinampas and irrigation canals, or sewage systems that amazed the Spaniards as much as their personal hygiene, which allowed them to have a healthy army ready to conquer neighboring lands. When the first Spanish sailors arrived, the Maya culture resided in petty kingdoms and communities scattered all over the Yucatan Peninsula and Guatemala, while the Mexica Empire covered its greatest extent. With the help of peoples rebelling against the Mexica and the diseases they were carrying, the European conquistadors defeated the Aztec Empire in a few years, but it took them almost another 100 to subdue the Maya peoples. Still, in 1761, Maya revolutionary Jacinto Canec led a native rebellion in Yucatan. In fact, the Maya inheritance is alive today. The Lacandon, the Soque, the Tzotzil, and the Tzetzal, among many others, still speak the Mayan language and keep their traditions. As for the Mexica, their heirs are the Nahua peoples that inhabit Mexico's central region, and their language, Nahuatl, is present in English with many words like coyote, tomato, and chocolate. So, the next time you're watching a movie that can't tell Maya from Mexica, remember, Mexica, a warlike people that dominated central Mexico at the time of the Spaniards' arrival. Maya, an ancient civilization of Central America with a predilection for mathematics and astronomy. Both peoples are still alive through their culture and their people. Think about it. The illustrations in this video were created by Fernando Estrada. You can see more of his work at macoatl.com. We appreciate you becoming a Patreon contributor. Subscribe!